Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode number 77 of Final Boss TV, your WoW Endgame rating show. I will be your host. My name's Adam K, aka Bay, and today's episode, we're back to tanks again. Now, we were talking to either a shield tank or one of those OP tanks today, or we're talking about the one that's had the most trials and tribulations throughout the expansion so far, and maybe because we're actually in the live version of the game and no longer in Warlords Live Beta, we'll see if all the anti-hype is real. Talking about Guardian Druids today, with not only then the man that's been on the show almost as much as Roger Brown. There's Ariel.
Dude,
what's up,
Roger
buddy?
Brown's like a co-host, but basically a co-host at this point, right?
He almost is.
Yeah, man, how's it going?
Good, buddy. Good to see you again. I like the representing the retired bear there. It's good. I like it.
Hey, man. It's a good shirt.
Does the bear have a name, by the way? Does it have
No.
a name? No. Oh.
No, we never actually gave it a name. I mean, I was looking for a logo for the guild because we changed our guild's name like 2 years ago.
Mhm.
And then Sunny had some doodles that she'd done at work, and I was like, I want that. So she colored it up and sent it to me. And then I made a shirt out of it for BlizzCon last year.
It needs a name. I think you should name it this year.
It's
been long
enough.
Slacks.
What?
Grandpa Slacks. I don't know. He's old. Grandpa's wears slacks, but he's bare,
Whose
so he
voice
don't
is
wear
that?
pants.
Oh,
Maybe
that's,
it's Lady Bear.
Oh.
there's Kaylin. Hello. How are you?
Hello. Good. How are you?
She's got options for the name of the bear. See? Gosh.
See, Grandpa Slacks
Grandpa
or
Slacks.
Grandma. I don't know.
You got nothing? Lost
I
it.
don't know. Where they wear poodle skirts.
I don't know. What
Used
do
to wear poodle
know.
skirts.
I
don't
What,
know.
what grandmas or bears? I don't know if bears wear poodle skirts.
Both.
Both?
Grandma bears?
Grandma bears? It could
Sure.
be. It very
Sundress.
well
They wear
could be.
sundresses.
So welcome back. Of course, we talked about Warlords of Beta tanking back in the day. Ariel was on the show last, and we were a little concerned about Guardian Druids going into this expansion, and it seems that some of those concerns were warranted. Sadly.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It was really weird. Like back in beta, I think the show we did was like prior to the massive tank nerfs or whatever.
Mhm.
But there was just a lot of problems, primarily with our level 100 talents, that didn't get fixed until 6.1 for some reason that I don't understand.
Right.
Which caused us annoying amounts of issues in Heimal. For like the first half of the encounters were fine. The first 3 encounters were kind of a joke to begin with, but once you start getting into the things that were really going to kill you, like Korag and Imperator and the last phase of Tectis, then started becoming an issue,
Yeah.
which was disappointing.
Yeah, I know that like a lot of people out in the world of Warcraft just kind of gauge tanking roles, I guess, or what the top guilds are doing, and when someone very, very important re-rolls away from Guardian Druid in Heimal, that's kind of like the rift heard around the bear community.
Well, you're talking about Seda, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, Seda's explanation for going Warrior for Heimal was totally valid. Like, Warriors were super ridiculous for Korag and
Yeah.
Imperator specifically. So, defensively anyway. Offensively, they were crap. But that's not really the point. The point is to stay alive. And for Imperator and Korag, Warriors are really strong. So, it made sense.
Yeah. It's just sad looking at that from the outside in, like from like my perspective, like looking at like trying to find tanks and whatnot, and hearing about like someone that's been referred to as like Prime Bear for so long. Yeah, it just could have happened. What do you think so far of the expansion launch, Kaylin, going from into Warlords from Mists? How's it all felt on your end?
It was good. I mean, after leveling up and getting all the garrison stuff done and doing the dungeons, getting geared, it actually kind of feels a little lonely because I spend about 90% of my time in my garrison instead of
Yeah.
like in a capital city with everyone else. So I kind of miss seeing people that aren't NPCs and like
Yeah,
you know, I
yeah,
used to
yeah.
once in a while get a little whisper. It wasn't anything important. It was like, hey, where's this person? Because they're not ever looking for me, but I don't even get those anymore. So I'm a little lonely. But I mean,
I think that was That was actually funny you bring that up, because I was brought up today on Convert to Raid, because they were talking about how Coltrane says, after defeating all of these bosses and building a great town in this new backwards time travel continent and have an army of followers, I've never been so alone.
Yeah.
It really, I guess we were kind of just
It
like,
just feels really disjointed, like, uh, yeah, we get together, we go raid, we meet at the instance, we finish raiding, we all hearth back to our garrisons, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
Yeah.
whereas we used to at least we used to hearth back to the same inn, and like,
Right.
oh, I'm still here, and they used to like hang out, but everyone just kind of goes their own way, and then everyone realizes they're in their garrison, there's nothing to do, so they log off, and it's like kind of sad.
yep, yeah, it's an interesting place we're at right now. I think it's a good experiment that they've done with garrisons, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it would work better if it was a guild instance rather than a solo
Yep.
thing. I think that would have been better.
I mean, we've asked for guild
retrospect,
housing
obviously.
for so long.
Yeah.
Why wasn't
Like,
it
think of how cool that would have been if you had been like your group of people all lived in the same place and like trained together and had your like all your resources and stuff. Like that would have been way cooler. In obviously hindsight 2020, and maybe it was technical reasons that it wasn't possible. Who knows? But in total retrospect, that would have been a way better way to do it. I think.
Yeah, no, it would have been good. Well,
And then maybe, if possible, not put that guild housing in the middle of nowhere in a frozen tundra where you have to run like 5
Hey,
miles to get anywhere.
there's
Like,
the
why not?
Horde Garrison
Horde
Salt. There it
Or-
is. There it is.
Pretty forest, okay?
Or if you're in a pretty well, whatever.
Horde salt.
But
Mhm.
maybe put it next to like some big social center.
The
so you're
Horde,
not-
the Horde Salt. Yeah, I know. Have you,
It's
Kaylin? Have
just
you
so white.
have you seen how good the Alliance Garrison looks? Have you seen?
I
it?
have. I'm really
okay.
super jealous.
Mm, mhm.
I got my level 90 warlock to her alliance garrison, and I just looked around and I was like, "This is nice," and then I logged off
Oh crap!
because then I'd have to actually level her. So
Right. So the transition from Mists to Warlords, because I know that Bears were in a pretty good spot last expansion. Like, I don't think there was this much
Well-
attrition from the class as there is now. What?
Well,
Do you have a different
okay, so I mean, at the start of the expansion, it was okay. We still had the same general problems. Like, if you RNG failed you on multiple hits and coming at the same time, this is common on Windlord and Empress and Shaw.
Mhm.
Then you died. There's something you could do. And then there was just some fights in TOT, Heroic 25 specifically,
Uh-huh.
where you just die and there's nothing you could do.
Yep.
But of course in Siege, basically bears were unkillable and did ridiculous raid healing and ridiculous damage. So, I mean, Siege was great. Don't get me wrong.
No, Siege,
It
yeah.
was fun.
I mean,
But-
I bring up, I think what a lot of people think of Mr. Pandaria, I think most people can relate right
Just
to
remember
Siege,
Siege.
because it was 13 months long. So, I mean, what happened before there was Garrosh? I don't know. Yeah.
I didn't even remember the names of the other raids.
Of the other
What were
raids,
they?
right?
But Mogushan and like something with bugs. I don't.
Yeah, there was something with bugs.
Bugs.
Dot raid,
Right?
Oh,
exactly.
are you talking about our T17 tier set? Is that what you're talking about?
Oh
I'm just kidding.
god. Mm-hmm. So then, had the ability prune hit bear tanks? Like, because other tanks have lost a lot, or not at all. So what was taken away from bears going into Warlords? Ari, like, what was the big swings that you guys lost in power spikes, I guess, or buttons that you used to use a lot? Anything, Ilya, of note?
I'll let Kaylin talk about Enrage because she liked Enrage. But
Oh, okay. Right.
Bear Hug was probably the neatest ability we lost. I didn't really see much use outside of very specific things. Like you could use on Galakras and Garrosh and PvP, but outside of that, I didn't really see much use.
Sure.
So they took it away. And then we lost Rip and Rake, which was kind of a problem. Not so much in a problem like just for general guardianing, but it reduced the value of Heart of the Wild because now you're just stuck with Shred and Ferocious Bite spam, which is terrible.
When you go cat to
And-
do damage.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas before you could actually use bleeds and multi-dot and stuff, which is a lot better. Um, and then we lost the prime ability, or I guess not prime, the main air quotes ability that we lost was swipe.
Yep.
Which in mists didn't really do anything, but in retrospect, removing it was probably not the best plan.
Yep.
At the time, it was like, eh. I mean, you just need an ability that does AOE damage. Doesn't really matter what the interactions are. So at the time, it was like, well, remove swipe, whatever. It doesn't do anything now. Removing it's not going to hurt anything. But turns out that was not actually what happened.
You sure? Are you sure bears don't just like spamming thrash? That's
Oh
all
my
you
God.
do for AOE? You sure it's not a
So
good?
boring.
Really?
Yeah, you spam thrash and then you can't get threat on anything anyway. So why
Yeah,
even bother?
that's the caveat there.
Maybe if the button did something,
Yeah.
it'd be
Well,
alright.
it does something, but when you're
As
competing
in,
against other tanks for aggro, it's like, eh,
yeah.
don't even bother.
Is chat right in saying you lost leader of the pack? I guess you don't have that extra crit as a passive aura
Uh,
anymore.
Yeah, but is that relevant? I mean,
Maybe
it's
for
for soloing, sure,
soloing stuff,
but
maybe.
crit doesn't really do much anyway, so
Right.
it's not a huge loss.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And so what about
did-
Enrage, Kaylin? What's this? What's
Uh,
this?
It's like it's not really that big of a deal. I mean, I know
make
Ari's like whatever. Enrage was dumb, and I'm like, it wasn't necessary. I mean, to go on the prune was the right decision, but I kind of miss it sometimes. I mean, you're sitting at 50 rage, and you're so close to that next charge of Savage Defense, and you just can't get there. Just you know, boop, Enrage, bam, you're there. But I mean, it's not a big deal. And like he was saying with Bear Hug, Bear Hug was when I accidentally hit Bash and I needed a stun. That's about as much use as it got from me. So I'm not. And when you would get mind controlled on Shaman's Trash and end up bear hugging somebody and they would die. in 2 ticks. So I
Yeah,
will miss that.
That was
I'll
pretty
miss
funny.
that.
I will get that.
It was
I'll give you
really
that.
funny. Yeah.
So you'll miss the huge stun and damage when you're trying to kill your friends. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
But I mean, everything Ari said was pretty spot on. The Heart of the Wild kitty DPS is pretty lackluster.
Right.
With just Shred and Ferocious Bite, it's the most boring thing in the world, and I kind of hate ever taking the talent, even if it is useful.
I mean, that's sort of a trend we'll see in this episode going through that. When I've done almost every tank now in Warlords, and I have a prop paladin and a prop warrior alt, and they have buttons to hit and they do things, and like they're getting in there and they're slapping faces and devastating and shield slamming stuff. And then when I remember testing bears back in the alpha and the beta, they had like 4 buttons, and like you only really hit 3 of them. As a cooldown, you just don't really do much. And I don't know why there's this huge separation between certain tanks having, like, buttons still to feel like they're active and they're doing things. And then bears just kind of hit mangle and lacerate. And maybe maul sometimes. Like, why?
Well, it's more like Maul a lot of the time, but
Well, more so now, I'm sure. Yeah, but like, that's just heroic striking. That just kind of happens. You don't feel like I'm doing anything. Is that just how bears are right now, I guess?
it's so a lot of it depends on which talents you take. It can get a lot more complicated if you're trying to play well with talents, especially Pulverize, which is like you're pretty much your generic talent for most encounters.
Right.
Because then you have to plan out what you're going to do over the next 12 seconds. Are you going to use the Scenario More? Do you have a heal DOC proc? Are you going to healing touch yourself? What kind of damage are you going to be taking? It's a lot more thinking goes into it once you start having to deal with that. But if you're just going, oh, I just keep Lacerate up, Mangle on cooldown, keep Thrash up, then it becomes not really something to worry about.
Right.
Or it becomes easier to manage, but still a lot about learning the encounter and tailoring your ability use
Sure.
to match what's going to happen and knowing what's going to happen.
Sure, I guess. We'll see how we do it again more. I mean, you talk about managing stuff, and the thing you used to, in a way, manage, or some might say game, was the vengeance of Mr. Pandaria, which is now resolved. So There's no more real like DPS horroring. There's no more sitting to get crit for tanking, right? So like resolve only impacts your ability to live. So what is
Yep.
the impact on Guardian then? So what gains from resolve for a Guardian Druid?
You're waiting for me to take this one, aren't you? Okay.
Well,
I
that's
mean-
the silence is a good point. That's
I
sort of
mean-
what I'm going for here.
It's all about your self healing, really, and that's about all you're gonna gain from it.
And only some of your self healing, like the
Yeah.
percent HP self heals don't benefit from resolve. So 2 of the level 30 talents are automatically out. And all of the self heals that are based on either agility or attack power all benefit from resolve. So that gives us 4 things total, if memory serves, which is Frenzy Regen, Tooth and Claw, Snarling Ward, and Dream of Snaris, and all or Healing Touch, and technically Rejuvenation if you decide to go with Heart of the Wild and use it defensively for some reason.
Right. But
But
there's
I mean,
I'm just throwing it out there.
it's not a bad change. I mean, taking damage to do damage was the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
right.
Someone who's supposed to not take as much damage as they can, and it's fine for me that it's just been rolled into something defensive. It does kind of suck that all we have are like those 4 self-healing things. It would be nice, and I know a lot of people would really like it if we had some sort of a absorb mechanic to help, especially with like something like magic damage or anything like that.
Well, wait. You have an absorb mechanic that doesn't
We
benefit
do.
from resolve.
Yeah.
Well, it did for part of beta, and it was completely broken. Like, it was wildly overpowered. I mean, you remember early beta where basically you could sit on the mythic tank dummy and not die ever? Yeah, that's what happened when PT benefited from resolve.
I mean, we're talking about, of course, your mastery with your primal tenacity, which now is that when you're hit by a physical attack, you gain a physical absorbed shield equal to 12% plus mastery of the hit's damage. But that is all it is. Of course, the attack power bonus is all masteries for all tanks, but I don't see. It's so weird to me talking to other tanks and like resolve increases your guard, resolve increases your shield barrier, resolve increases your sacred shield and your personal healing. Resolve doesn't do anything for bears like personal mitigation that this comes with the class's like base ability. Like, primal tenacity, it doesn't. Should it affect it? Should primal tenacity be less and then also have a resolve component involved so you actually feel like you're gaining from the whole point of being a tank? Is that...
I mean, I think it's fine the way it is. It's incredibly strong, especially when you start getting up to the heroic and mythic levels of mastery in Blackrock. Like, you can easily achieve 60% mastery in Blackrock gear, which is equivalent to 100% block, basically,
Right.
which is insane. And because like neither of the shield tanks are capable of doing that. I mean, outside of using their actual shield, like shield block and things like that. So it's actually really strong. There's some weird things that happen once you start getting into the 100% area, but I hope we don't end up having to deal with those. So yeah.
Right, because Kaylin, you're at how much mastery right now?
I'm not Ray buffed. I'm at 48%. So toss some food
Right.
and enchant procs and raid buffs and unused trinkets, and I'm up to like, 65 plus. It's pretty ridiculous.
And that is basically every attack, every white attack, I would assuming, right? Every physical. Does it actually work on special attacks too? Like boss special attacks? Like would it work on the physical component of like Gruul's Slash, for example? Does that proc
I
Primal
believe
Tenacity?
it does.
Yeah, it
work on
does.
Inferno Strike,
So
yeah.
funny thing about Inferno Slice, early progression on Mythic Gruul, people were actually taking a solo hit of Inferno Strike with like huge trinket buffs and trinket procs and buffs and stuff, getting insta killed, wiping the raid, and because Primal Tenacity doesn't fade when you die, they would then res and start the fight again with like a 1 million PT shield.
Okay.
So, and then they would take no damage from the first strike after that, which was pretty hilarious. But yeah, it triggers from anything that's not a bleed, basically,
Okay.
which is a lot.
That's what I was getting at with Kaylin's level of mastery right now being cleared, so she has all the options for all the gear available right now, right?
Yeah.
Any attack that the boss hits you, that you get, it's weird, but it's like sort of counterintuitive that you want to dodge as a bear, but if you don't dodge, you get hit, and then 60% of that hit becomes a shield for the next hit, which you then, of course, could dodge. But like, is that like counterintuitive, or do the two of them help each out enough that you want to dodge things with Savage Defense, but then if you don't dodge things, you get these huge shields? Is that okay? Do you feel like you just kind of have to like hope?
To be honest, I don't even think about Primal Tenacity because it's passive. I don't even. I see my income damage and I see, oh, absorb, absorb, absorb. That's cool, but I don't ever plan any of my gameplay around it. It's hard to plan for something like that
Sure.
when you could dodge the next hit anyway. So it's more like a nice perk of getting hit, if that makes sense. But
Sure.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't plan my life around it.
And it prevents the whole wombo combo thing, which happened in the first 2 tiers of Mists, which is what it's supposed to do. So that's, I mean, it does its job. It doesn't really do anything against magic damage,
Right.
I mean, other than increases your attack power, which means you heal for more. But maybe that's supposed to be our weakness. I don't know. It'd be nice if we had something a little more effective against magic damage. I mean, Snare Ward is really strong. FR is really strong when you're only taking damage that can't be avoided, and so you have the resources for it. And like DLC is extremely strong. So, I mean, we have heals, but we don't have things like Unglyph DP or whatever the monk thing is that makes stagger apply to magic damage.
Right.
So
because almost all the other, because like, yeah, they can stagger magic damage. Paladins can also change.
oh,
yeah,
holy
Glyph.
shield, right? Works on magic damage.
Holy
and then
shield, yeah,
swords?
makes you able to block a portion of magic damage. Yeah, nothing like that for bears too. But is that? I mean, if you take physical, obviously every boss that has magic damage, I think of like Korog, for example. If you would be healing you for a lot, you get a shield that minimizes the amount of physical damage. Then if magic damage goes out, that's what you'll be taking. You won't be taking lots of physical at the same time. But then you have really no options for magic outside of just healing it. Or bristly
Yeah.
fur.
Why
So,
So
you
it's
do
not
this?
fuck-
why did I do this? Yeah. Well, I guess.
But maybe, I don't,
Oh, go ahead.
and maybe part of the point of something like Korag is, well, you have 2 tanks, so one tank is generally going to be one of the other 4 specs. So they can deal with the
Sure.
ads. Maybe that's what they're going for. I mean, because Korag himself is like all he does is physical, so we're
Mhm.
obviously really good for that. But and same for Imperator, like all he does is physical damage. We're obviously really good for that, even though that's like not exactly current content anymore. So maybe that's what the design was, but it just feels bad when
Right.
there's this other part of the fight where you're literally the worst option for.
Yeah, I guess that to put it in more local terms now, it'd be like Blast Furnace, where it's like so much magic damage all the time, and you might be able to deal with the physical part. And chat room brings up that you just kind of how do you deal with magic damage and just take it, heal it up, and then do it again before you get hit again and rinse repeat. So.
Yep.
I guess that makes sense. Are there any add-ons you recommend for the bear community that you use to like track either your Primal Tenacity shield possibly, or any of the resolve interactions with Guardian Druids? Anything you suggest for bears to have for tanking?
It's just weak auras. Everything's weak auras.
Everything's weak.
You need to track something. Just make a weak aura. But yeah, no, for resolve, and I don't actually track my primal tenacity because, like I said, I don't base any of my gameplay around it.
Yeah.
But definitely for resolve and for Ursa Major, which is actually almost more of an interest than a
Then a
gameplay.
necessity. Okay.
than a game my
wanna-
gameplay around it.
I want to
But
see how much HP I have right now.
I want to see those numbers. Yeah.
Yeah.
But nothing.
But yeah,
really
weak
specific.
auras are your friend for sure.
Now, do you guys have any weak auras anywhere posted that people can? I'm assuming they'll be in the Summon Stone guide. I'd imagine when that gets done.
Yes, it will.
If they weren't now,
will
if they weren't
now.
before, they will now.
They are now.
I
Get
don't
those
think
paste
we
bins
have
in there.
A 6.0 weak aura thread. There was a 5-4
Well,
weak
get
aura
on
thread,
it.
but people like posted some weak auras here and there.
Mhm.
I think I stole my resolve tracker from Sunny. Um, and I made a bunch of my own to track things like survival and like different charges of survival instincts and stuff, which is something we forgot to mention. Survival
Ah.
instincts is so good now, man.
MVP of
Uh,
tagging.
yeah. So it went from like a 1 minute or it went from a 3 minute cooldown to 2 charges each on a 2 minute recharge,
Yes.
which is so good. Oh man, that cooldown's ridiculous. Love
Yeah,
it.
I mean, it still works out to being. I mean, depending on how you use it, it's still only 12 seconds of a shield wall on a 3 minute
Oh yeah,
cooldown,
yeah.
roughly.
But it's those 2 charges though, and that
Sure, it's that's
charge. It's like I go from my bear to my pally tank, and I'm lost
well,
because
that's
I'm so used to my survival instincts. I just don't know what to
what's
do.
the weirdest thing about Druid is that you guys have so many cooldowns. There's like 6 or 7 different cooldowns that you have. I mean, because you can kind of count pulverize into that. I mean, you've got
Eh.
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 Pulverize is
You're
rotational
always
on a
gonna have
cooldown.
it rotational, yeah. But
Yeah.
you've got bark skin, survival instincts, um, and then you
And then
have
you
frenzied
can take Bristling
regen,
Fur if you want. But that
savage
yeah,
defense, bristling fur if you want. Then you said you've got Cenarian War, which is pretty good, right? You can take Cenarian War, I guess, or I mean, renewal's a
yeah.
thing, but
No, you don't take renewal because one scenario ward heals for as much as a
as much as a
renewal,
renewal,
and
and
it's
it's a shorter
available four
cooldown.
times as often.
Right, of
So
course, of
no.
course. There's just so many cooldowns you have, and that's just the weird parallel, like with you and Blood DKs, is that you don't have a lot of rotational buttons. You just have lots of cooldowns, like 5, 6, 7 of them, and I guess that's the way they want to design it. So,
I mean,
hmm,
different people enjoy different things.
sure,
I enjoy the current incarnation, like the current playstyle incarnation of Guardian, because I think it's the skill cap is a lot higher. Um, but some people don't. When it's kind of up to each person to determine what they enjoy the most.
sure, of course, of course.
Even more so now that our level 100 talents are actually an option instead of just pulverize and nothing else. You
Just
actually get
pulverize
to
and then dog shit, dog shit. Yeah.
yeah,
Right, right.
you actually get to like use your brain when you're playing and
Well,
think, hey, maybe
that's good. This is an
for
important
once,
organ right there. That's a
yeah,
good thing. It's a good
for
thing.
once I don't have to use pulverize, which is kind of nice. So
Okay. Now
Or
you
for once, GOE Guardian Balloon is like sit good.
the
Like
best.
not
Chromog. Oh,
not
Guardian Balloon is
bad.
so good in that fight.
So you brought up Ursa Major. I want to touch on that real quick. So Ursa Major, for those of you that aren't druids, is like the new. Both Blood DKs have with Shadow of Death, and then Ursa Major is what bears have, and it is when your auto attack multi strikes, your mangle multi strikes, your lacerate periodic damage multi strikes, you get a stacking, sort of weird like ignite mechanic of 2% extra HP gain that lasts for 25 seconds, and then when I don't know how like the refresh thing ends because you don't continuously gain stacks forever. Like that stack will only last for 25 seconds, then it will deteriorate. But the health is added to the stack, so you could just gain an obscene amount of HP. I mean, like, Kaylin, how much HP have you gained before with Ursa Major? You told me in the
I
show
gotta
notes building.
I think my max that I've seen is 130%, and that put me at like just over 1.3 million
Not bad.
points. Not bad, not
Just
bad.
1.3 million HP. Not bad. Pretty good.
No big deal.
Pretty
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, our multi strike effect is basically the same as DK's, except ours is substantially better
Mm.
because it has more opportunities to trigger, and when you're adding targets, the number of opportunities to trigger goes up a lot.
Sure.
So because most of it comes off of lacerate, which is 1 per second. So when you're adding an extra target, oh well, suddenly now you get two opportunities per second to trigger, on top of mangles and maul cleaves. So it's very effective at keeping you alive. Extremely effective at keeping you alive, actually.
Right. Now, do you think this is a interesting mechanic to use, or is it a band-aid for Guardian Druids?
It's basically continue the idea that guardians soak a lot of damage, but they can also heal a lot of it up themselves. So having a lot of multi-strike allows you to continue to soak that damage, basically.
Sure.
And then you can also heal a lot of it because through like DLC procs and FR and Cenarium Ward, DOC and Cenarium Ward specifically. Like, yes, DOC is like a random chance to get a proc, but it heals for a lot.
I mean, how much we talk about like a lot? Because obviously it's only being a flat amount, right? It's not scaling off your HP or anything. That scales off your
No.
resolve,
Attack power. So it's
attack power. Yeah.
880% of attack power, boosted by 20% with the talent,
Wow.
boosted by up to 3.4 for resolve.
Mm-hmm.
And since it's not uncommon to have 10k plus attack power during a fight, if you're like potioning or have a proc or whatever,
Right.
we're talking like 250, 300k heals on a non-crit.
And then those multi-strike.
Yeah, and then they can multi-strike.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, getting a 600k plus heal off of a DLC proc is not unheard of.
And that's almost more HP than the other, like the shield tanks or the guard tank even has.
Yep.
So, I mean, I guess there are pros and cons to that. The trade-off, of course, is that you normally will take more damage than the other tanks.
Oh, yeah.
Just because of how you're an HP tank to some degree.
Yep.
Yeah. So
But that's kind of how we've been for pretty much like our entire existence.
Almost forever, exactly. Yeah.
So.
Which is, it makes you more of a reactory tank, right? You have to react to the damage you take, which is how all tanks are supposed to be, unless you're a Brewmaster Monk.
Yeah.
Or a Prop Paladin.
Yeah.
There's that.
I complain about Brewmaster Monk Salt, but I can't complain too hard because one of my best friends is a Brewmaster, so when she get mad at me. So.
Oh, well, okay. then what do you, Kaylin, from your perspective now, with clearing everything in Blackrock Foundry, what do you think is like the tanking hierarchy now then? Like, where would you put all 5 of the tanks? Based on like performance or what you've seen yourself, or based on like learning strats, like looking at kill videos, like where would you put the five tanks?
In terms of survivability,
Yeah.
then it's probably going to be monks, obviously. It's just monks always at the top. After that, things get a little bit muddled. I don't know much about DKs because I don't tank with one. I tank with a Prot Warrior. But once you get down to the Prot Warrior, Prot Pally, Guardian, survivability-wise, we're actually all very similar. I don't know that a lot of people know that, or they choose not to know that, but
right.
They are actually all relatively on par. Obviously, each tank has its own niche that the others don't and makes them better for certain situations. But overall, I mean, the tank balance for survivability is actually not too terrible, except for the monks that are like, yeah, there.
they're just out there. You guys are all orbiting the Earth, and the monks are like, we're going to the moon. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and then like Blood DKs have their DPS issues where they can pull 10-20% more DPS than any other tank if they gear and play correctly.
Right.
I don't know what the survivability trade-offs are with that, but yeah, the fact that they can do an extra 10% on single target and up to 20% on cleave is kind of dumb.
Yeah. But there's definitely a high skill
that's
cap.
Breath of Sindragosa for you.
That's Breath of Sindragosa. I'm not going to say abuse, but...
No, it's a gear thing. It's totally a gear thing. It's not something that was expected,
right.
Or maybe they didn't think it would happen this soon. I don't know, but it's definitely 100% a gear thing.
Because until like the gear curve got to a point where Blood DK could keep up Breath of Sindragosa at this high echelon of level, Brewmaster Monk was also like the best DPS tank as well, unless you're AoEing, and then Prot Warriors are like, hey, what do you know about Thunderclap? So yeah.
I know lots about Thunderclap.
Exactly. I don't.
Yeah.
Thunderclap Deep Wounds. I've heard you.
Heard it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Heard it's pretty good. I don't know.
It's alright.
Yeah.
It's okay, I guess.
So why do you think? I mean, Ari, do you agree with Kaylin's like top 5 on where they all fall in?
Yeah, like Blood DKs are. So the thing about Blood DKs is because they. I think. I haven't looked at the tooltip for Blood Shield in a long time, but I'm pretty sure both sides of it are based off of attack power. I think Reniat, you can shoot me later.
Mm-hmm.
But because of that, it's the old Savage. Like I think it's the old Savage defense, like the Cataclysm area Savage defense problem, where it's really strong up to a certain point and then it falls off. But that point happens to be like Heroic Black or Mythic Blackhand. So, I think Blood DKs are like pretty much fine, and they might even need tweaks going into the next tier. I mean, obviously Bithis and Dragosa, but monks are overpowered. Everyone understands that, especially at the high level,
Right.
and that's kind of been a known thing since tail end of Highmaul.
That's been a
Um,
known thing since Throne of Thunder.
well, I mean, back in Throne of Thunder, they were just bugged. To
Oh,
um,
they were just bugged. It's okay.
they were like
Yeah.
there was actually a legitimate weapon damage bug that was causing them to do more damage than they should have been.
Right.
Um, but and then yeah, but like monks, paladins, and guardians are all pretty close together. I mean, you could. The only way you can actually measure this, the only way we have to measure this
Mhm.
is the KRSI score on Warcraft logs. But even
Sure.
that
Sure.
is more of a measurement of how how well your guild executes the encounter, and B how equal the tanks are at doing their job. um, because if you take more damage that causes more, if you take more damage that you can handle yourself, then your score goes down. But if you take more damage that your healers need to deal with, then your score goes up.
Right.
So it's not really a good comparison. Maybe once we get into like the thousands of samples for individual fights, it'll become more useful. But right now, it's like the differences aren't enough to be concerned about, really, except for the obvious one where monks are like millions of, or not millions, I guess tens of thousands of points ahead of everyone else.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. I mean, so in Dark Foundry now, of course, and like, what situations with them would you say, Kaylin, would like our guardians just really really good at? I mean, you can take
Uh,
into account the great thrash nerf heard around the world, which we're doing with now, obviously. So AOE is not the bee's knees anymore, as it were. So like, where do you, or what encounters in particular are bears pretty good at, or really good at?
um, Chromog is one, especially ever since 6.1 with the GOE buff. Um, the thing about Chromog is he swings so slowly and casts so many things in between all of his swings that with your 100% dodge, you can catch 4 damage events in the span of 3 seconds. And if you really pay attention to your timers and the way the boss is moving to do his next attack, you can go like, I don't know, 15 seconds taking no damage,
Wow,
which is great.
that's pretty. That's
Um,
pretty good. It's pretty good.
this is pretty good, yeah. If your co-tank dies and you have charges of SD, then you can completely sustain yourself between your GOE charges and like your own cooldowns, externals, until they're able to get that tank up, or until you wipe out whatever's happening in your encounter at the time. But it's really strong, and it is exceedingly fun for me anyway. I find that one of the funnest fights for me, just because I actually have something to do that's more than just hit SD when it's ready and I'm tanking. But now
Right.
I actually have to think about when I'm using it, which is refreshing.
Well, that's pretty good. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think any other tank and chat room, of course, brings up. Agix says, 15 seconds of no damage or almost at monk level of mitigation. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
I mean
thanks for
that.
that, pockets.
Let me have my.
Oh, that is. That's
Oh,
right. You're right.
right.
You're right.
It's a
But that
pocket
is. But guard is really wishy-washy in that regard too. I don't think you can mitigate and just take 0 damage. Your guard will still absorb it, and it might break during that time. But dodging physical attacks completely sounds pretty good. Any other fights that come up to mind, Ari? Maybe that guardian druids are really good at. Unless you want to go right to the ones that you're really not good at.
I mean, I don't think none of the other ones come to mind. I know there's something about maidens where you can dodge all the blade dashes or something, but the rest of them were just like above average, not like super strong, really.
Okay.
So, mm, that's my personal opinion based on the ones I've done. So
With
that may or may not be worth much.
with being a heal oriented tank, right? Like you can self heal a lot. Can I know people on maidens might have seen a lot of like monks soloing the Merrick boat, the blood boat, right? You can just heal off all the damage that the giant orc deals to you. Can guardian druids do that? Can they self survive without a healer on the boat? Or is it really really iffy to do that?
I couldn't actually say for a mythic point of view. I didn't go up on any of the boats, so
Right.
I don't know.
Because I'm just curious because it's so heal oriented as a guardian druid as well, and that's sort of
Yeah.
how a monk goes up there as well too, with like expel harm and guard timing and whatnot. I'm curious if a guardian can do that because I know like a prot paladin and a prot warrior, you're
Yeah,
done.
definitely not. Yeah.
Which
Cancel
boat
the
was that?
This is the Marak's boat, the blood boat, with dropping all the pepperonis on the ground.
Um, I mean, my guess is probably, but I've having not done the fight on Mythic, I couldn't really tell you.
Right.
So,
And
I
and
can,
mean,
you know,
I think between self heals cooldowns and just having that extra DPS on the boat with you instead of healer,
sure.
it's probably possible. But again, I've never done it on Mythic. I'm the Sorka tank, so
Oh, you're on the
I
docks
sit
all
on
the
the
time.
platform forever. Yeah.
That makes sense. I wasn't sure if you could because you're talking about the how like between Guardian of Elune, with your Savage Defense, you could actually just dodge like 2 of his autos and then heal the damage you took prior to that, and then dodge 2 more autos and then heal the damage you took if anything happened during that too. Or between those windows of actually taking a hit and you dodge the rest of his attacks. All he does is melee you. He just melees
Yeah.
like 160,000. So you can just avoid that and then just heal it and then avoid the next and then heal the yeah. I don't know if you could. I wonder. I'm trying to find places where a guardian druid would really be good because this whole argument of like, well, just put a monk on it, you're good to go, you know. So
I don't think we're particularly bad for anything in particular. We're
Sure.
just, there's no fight that you go to and someone's like, I really wish we had a guardian druid for this.
right.
It's just
Damn
it's the
it.
one thing you don't really hear. But I mean, if you have a guardian druid, especially in Blackrock Foundry, no one says, "Oh God, we have a guardian druid." Like we're never that bad for any of the encounters.
I hope
we're
so.
always,
Right.
yeah,
No.
we're always good or pretty good. I think a lot of that I attribute to the 2-charge survival instincts
Right.
with the glyph to glyph it for a shorter duration, shorter cooldown. Especially for fights that have like a lot of big damaging events like Orgorger or Gruul.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you put a lot less strain on your external cooldown supply. So if you're not tanking with a monk, like you're tanking with a paladin or a prot warrior, you might need those cooldowns. They're available.
Well, yeah, Chris, we tank with a well, for the longest period of time during Mythic. Now our warrior has gone to his monk because of Black Hand reasons. But I remember progressing on Orgorger weeks back, and our prot warrior was fine. Like on all the breaths, the acid torrents, totally no big deal. Never needed any outside cooldown, maybe once or twice on on all the breaths. But that makes a good point too. Is like I guess Guardian would not need or suffer from the prot warrior issue of that. Like I need everything every time or I die.
Yeah.
Or not that you die. The warrior won't die. The raid dies. So that's a good
Yeah.
point because survival. You could really survival instincts every breath. Almost. You
to
could-
For,
well,
you could
for
definitely do-
Orgorge specifically, you
Yeah.
could do. Depends on if you're doing the 3 or the 4.
Sure.
If you're doing the 4, then you could Bristling Fur and Survival Instincts all 4 of them. I get a lot of externals because tank with a monk, so she doesn't need any. So all the externals are mine, which means less damage to the raid. So I can't really complain about that. But yeah, you could totally do that. Is just have Bristling Fur and Survival Instincts available for all 4 torrents if you're doing the 4,
Right.
and for a lot of the slices and Gruul if you're doing the 6 as opposed to the 3 or whatever strat you're using.
Right. Not bad. So I'm going to go a little deeper now. We're going to go into some stat discussion here. So stat priorities, the attunement for Guardian Druids is Survival of the Fittest, which is plus 5% more mastery. And then the mastery is Primal Tenacity, which is you hit by a physical attack, you gain an absorb shield for a percentage of the physical attack. For
Yep.
use on physical damage. And so what is the stat priority you're looking at here? You obviously have bonus armor in there for tanking. So that where the 6 stats all fall in line, Ari?
Well, I mean, bonus armor is obviously the best stat, for obvious reasons.
Obvious reasons. Yeah.
Obvious reasons are obvious. After that, it really depends on what you need. Kalen's going to talk about multi-strike builds in a second, but for just general use, mastery over multi-strike, over haste. Then after that, you have versatility, which is kind of okay. I mean, it's not great, but it's not
Right.
like horrible. And then crit is just bad. Like, I mean, there was some hope for crit in beta, but no, it just the amount of return you get for that stat is just so low that just don't use it.
Crit
ever.
is bad. Hey, I can high five you
Avoided
with
if at
that
all
one
possible.
for enhanced shamans. Crit is terrible. So yeah, go. There we go. Nice like that. There you go. So what is this multi-strike build stuff, Kaylin? What's this guy talking about?
Um, when we made the transition from High Mall to Foundry, I found that like the hits that we're taking from the bosses are just so much bigger than what we had been taking, and the gear in High Mall was so terrible. So
Oh, yep.
we started finding that stacking that multi-strike and abusing that Ursa Major was really beneficial to take those big hits because they weren't dodgeable, and we don't have any other way to mitigate it other than cooldown. So just stack health and you'll get through. Heal yourself up afterwards. It gives your healers some time. But I did go with a multi-strike build in the beginning for the first like probably six bosses of progression. And once I got my multi-strike to a certain level, for me that was 20 anywhere about like 25%. I started weaning off and switching to mastery. And so I still keep my multi-strike around, between 23 and 25%, just because the extra health is nice. And I like to track my little weak aura because it's still fun.
Right.
But I do stack mastery now just because that shield does some serious work, especially when you get to Black Hand.
So now in the way you're talking about, like, because you currently get stack stats anymore, obviously, so I'd assume that you would enchant your jewelry, your ring, necklace, cloak with mastery. Would you actually go with the mastery enchant too at this level?
For the weapon?
Right, for the weapon enchant.
Yeah, I do run with the mastery enchant.
Okay.
That's not to say that the bonus armor enchant's bad. It isn't. It's great because if you are proccing it, then you obviously need it. I found at the point that I switched my enchants, I wasn't really needing that enchant so much anymore because I wasn't proccing it so much, especially with having all that extra health with multi-strike. Yeah. So I switched to the mastery enchant, especially again. Everything that I'm geared for right now is still left over from Black Hand, and my job on that is like full primal tenacity work.
Right.
So I did as much as I could to get my mastery as high as I could, just to make that second phase easier. The less they have to worry about me, the more they can worry about everything else that's happening in that phase.
Because that's why I bring the help of weapon enchant thing up as a thing, is because most tanks I think use the Blackrock enchant because. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think Blood DKs use it either. So with the two health stacking tanks, I would imagine it almost becomes less. The amount of HP you can drop below that Blackrock will proc under now was buffed, but you still have a huge health pool regardless anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess it would almost diminish the effectiveness of the bonus armor enchant.
Yeah, it does technically, but the flip side of that is it's there when you really need it. So
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I was going to say something right. And the other part about itemization going from High Mall to Blackrock Foundry is Blackrock Foundry is completely full of Mastery multi-strike gear, which is like amazing. Whereas High Mall was basically versatility plus pick your stat, which was kind of dumb.
I mean, there was only so much gear options in High Mall, so everyone was sort of like, "I'll take the lesser of two awful pieces."
Yeah, basically, yeah.
But all right.
Whereas Foundry is like all the yummy gear, which is great.
So I guess weapon enchant preference then for Guardians. Would you say you can go with the Blackrock enchant early in your gearing phase, like if you're working on like heroic, and then as you get deeper into mythic, you can switch to the mastery one, or depending on how you. I'm just curious which one actually gains you more mitigation. Because it depends on your level of gear, like you said, right?
Yeah. Just like Kaylin said, the more once you get up to like the 695, 700 range, Mastery's probably a better option just for overall damage reduction. But the flip side is the Blackrock's there when you need it, so
right.
And then how much value you put on that is really up to you.
Oh, okay. I didn't know how that worked out. So now that you have the better gear options now, right? We're in tier 17. Your tier 17 set is called Living Wood. Well done.
Really? Because I thought it was just bug wings, but
I thought it was bug wing. That
doesn't even have anything to do with wood.
Well, it's
made of bug.
It's it's like a wood bug. Yeah, it should be called Living Wood Bug. So your 2-piece bonus, Tooth and Claw buffing equals your maul will cost 10 less rage when the Tooth and Claw buff is active. And your 4-piece is when you apply a Tooth and Claw to a target, you increase the healing of your next friend regeneration by 10% up to 3 stacks at 30% when you get there. So when I was looking at these, I was thought like, well, the 2-piece looks kind of okay, I suppose, if rage is a thing. 4-piece though, are these how are these working out, Ari? How are the 2-piece 4-piece of living bug wood bug doing for you?
2-piece is really good because not only is it's basically saving you rage that you can spend on frenzy regen instead. Um, it doesn't change what you're doing at all because you should always be using Tooth and Claw whenever it's up anyway.
Sure.
This just makes it really like ridiculously efficient, like more efficient than Savage Defense even, which is insane. And then 4-piece is kind of eh. Some people like it, some people don't like it. The other problem with 4-piece is that the stats are like the stats on shoulder stats are good, the glove and the leg stats are pretty good, but the stats in the 2-pieces are bad. So you have to take subpar stats to get the 4-piece, and the
Right.
4-piece, I mean, it's always going to be there because chances are you're going to use 3 Tooth and Claw charges before you use a frenzy regen, but the amount you get out of that frenzy regen can vary widely depending on what's happening in
Sure.
that given pull. I just prefer the guaranteed benefit from the better stats or to the 4-piece bonus.
Right, that was my last question. Do you actually gear for the 4-piece? I don't think either of you are.
No,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think I even own 4-tier pieces.
And that's the one weird thing, because like the paladin pro warrior are kind of both similar. Like when you block, you can block more. You know, like that's sort of how it goes with either of their sets. And yours is like rage cost. I guess it coincides with the fact that frenzied regen costs rage to then heal yourself, which is an integral mechanic of how you stay alive. But if your set pieces have poo stats on them that aren't going to help you outside of that, like as your class needs, you don't really need to go for the 4 set.
Yeah, like the 2 pieces, I think the helm and the chest, I think have crit on them, which makes them
Gross.
immediately ugly. But like, I feel like I should go on a tangent on how combining 4 specs into a single set of gear didn't really work out for druids, but
There it is.
that's neither here nor there. Because the whole thing about ferals really like crit, but they only have crit on 2 pieces, so therefore they get shafted on the other 3, but they like their set bonuses. It works when all 4 of the specs want similar stats, but anyway, it's neither here nor there.
Right.
Yeah, our 4-piece is kind of eh. I mean, I really liked our 2-piece from tier 15. I thought it was really cool. It feels like a significantly weaker. Well, it is a significantly weaker version of it. I don't know why they just didn't reuse the 2 tier 15 bonus. To be honest with you.
I mean, they usually try a lot of their set bonuses. They usually try to like beta test things live, right? Like a lot of set bonuses eventually roll into the class itself. They test to see how good it feels. Do classes like it? Does it work well? And then if it does, you get permanent resetting Glitter Storm if you're a Ret Pally. Thank you, Siege of Orgrimmar. But not every class gets that treatment. So I always kind of wonder when I look at set bonuses if they're always like trying to see about things about like weaving them into the actual how the class works. But both of these seem kind of not.
They're just passive.
Unique
like,
enough.
You don't.
Yeah. They're just like
You don't plan around them. They just happen.
Yeah.
I mean, and the 2-piece is good, so having it happen is good, obviously.
Right.
And the 4-piece is kind of eh. So having it happen is kind of eh.
But this is not just for you, of course, as people might in chat room know. We might have another Druid show coming up very soon, and those set bonuses aren't very good either. So is it a Druid thing? Is it the 4 classes in one? Could they not figure out enough things to like interact with the 4 different specs? I don't...
No, I mean you could easily come up with set bonuses that are really good for 4 specs.
Right.
Stats are kind of the problem,
Mm-hmm.
because when you're comparing like a crit versatility or crit haste piece to a mastery multi-strike piece, all the bears are going to look at the crit haste piece and go, that's disgusting, and look at the mastery multi-strike piece and go, that's amazing. So,
Right.
whereas ferals also hate crit haste, but something like a balanced druid will look at crit haste and go, that's actually not bad. But they'll look at Mastery Multi-Strike and go, ew. So
Yeah. Like, Kaylin, what are you gearing right now? Like, what pieces of gear do you have on? Like, what do you?
I'm actually rocking One Piece right now.
Nice, nice,
Yeah,
very good, very good, very
not
good.
even two piece. Like I said, still geared for Black Hand.
Right.
Because I don't do a lot of actual boss tanking on that fight. My co-tank takes him for all of phase one. The only time I take him is when he gets smashed away. So I have him for like 7 seconds or something every 20 seconds. The extra rage saved on the Maul isn't helping me at all, and the Tooth and Claw doesn't help me at all in the second phase, and third phase is kind of a cluster anyway, and again, it's kind of split tanking, so I geared specifically for phase 2, which is just mastery, mastery, mastery.
Yep.
Anything I can do to make the tank hurt me less. So, but even going back and doing farm, I don't actually miss the two-piece too much because I'm getting enough rage that I need. There's a couple fights I might sub it in for, maybe like Iron Maidens. Anything that I'm kind of like taking something the whole time. They're meleeing me a lot, but even then, I kind of been lazy and I haven't been switching out. It's been
I've
working
kinda
okay.
been lazy.
So
Yeah.
but you get to that point, right?
Sure.
Your gear is like XXX number, and
Mhm.
you don't need to worry about it anymore. So
So where do trinkets
No.
fall on this list of priorities? Which two are like the best? Then there are 6 trinkets to choose from, right? I guess 7 if you want to
6?
count.
Really? Because I thought there was only 2. 3 maybe.
Well, I hope. Well, that falls into the whole like High Mall versus Blackrock Foundry because you guys apparently can use ones from last year even though they're 15 eye levels lower. So like, Ari, where are the trinket priorities here? Like, which are your top 2?
Tablet,
Maybe
tablet, 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 and then
tablet.
tablet again.
tablet.
Tablet's like the first 10.
Okay. All right.
Um,
All right. Good.
And then Blast Furnace is really good. And unfortunately, the stamina trinket off of Black Hand is total garbage.
Mm.
So you'll usually end up using the stamina trinket from High Mall instead. And other than that, I just roll Blast Furnace and Tablet pretty much all the time.
Okay.
And if I really need stamina for some reason, then I go reuse the stamina trinket from High Mall. But that hasn't happened yet.
Right. What about you,
I'm in
Kaylin?
this-
What do you?
I'm in the same boat. I have a mythic tablet, and I don't have the Blast Furnace trinket on heroic. I mostly am not really we don't do heroic anymore, and it hasn't dropped on mythic yet. It has, but I didn't get it. I roll with actually a mythic Warforged Pulse from Twin Ogron.
Mm.
So it's it's 691. It's not a terrible loss. It's only 9 eye levels. The on-use mastery is nice. Again, Black Hand, second
Black
phase
Hand,
mastery,
Black Hand,
blah
yeah.
blah blah blah. But that's generally my trinket setup for now. And same thing, I swap out pillars for anything I might need stamp for. I could have had the Black Hand trinket. It did drop, but my co-tank and I kept trying to give it to each other because neither of us wanted it.
I don't. No, please. You take it. No.
Yeah,
After
so
you,
bad.
please.
It's pretty much
No,
how it went.
No, just you.
I
take
did
it.
manage to trade it off to him, so
Oh
it's his now. You
gosh.
can deal with it, but
It's his now. You can dew with it.
yeah, that's
the
okay. The
worst.
next one that drops, I'll have to have it. It'll sit in my bags, and I'll never use it because it's so
Right.
terrible.
I mean, because stamina interaction, I guess would sound pretty okay because it would technically increase the value of Might of Ursoc then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So-
It's the haste proc that's trash.
Yes.
Yeah, the stam's great.
I swing faster. Yeah. Your big bear paw. So that's all
Like,
it
it's not
gives
that-
you.
It's not that haste is bad. It's just like if you're going to get a stamina trinket, get the one that actually has the useful stats on it.
Sure.
For
don't know.
I mean, for a tanking, it's obviously a tanking trinket. It's got stam on it,
Yep.
but I don't know why they put haste on it, since they've been trying to shove mastery down every tank's throat forever. Like, hey, like it. Do you like it yet? And then here's this end boss trinket. It's got haste on it though. I don't know.
It should have had bonus armor on it. I don't understand,
Yeah.
but whatever.
Gosh.
Yeah.
There are some little frustrating points when we get to that area of gearing, I'm sure, that everyone's sort of like, dang it, why does it have this on it? You know. So anything else on stats and gear and stuff like that before I move us on?
No, that's pretty much it. Unless
Yeah.
Ken has anything she wants to add.
Pretty much it. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. Well, I'm gonna jibber jab about some things and stuff in the community that you guys may or may not have heard about already. Hopefully, you've heard about this little website that cropped up recently. I couldn't even load the website before the show because of high traffic volume. But this website little called Summon Stone. I'm not sure if you know about it. Of course, I'll put it on Elemental Shaman. But Summon Stone is besides the fact, really a gorgeous website. It'll eventually be a guide website put together by a bunch of experts from around the World of Warcraft community. And Druid, of course, is actually working on it. I think Ari and Kaylin were working on it like before the show. They were writing out, transposing tons of stuff in the show notes. It went from like 6 pages to about 18. So they have plenty to talk about, and they'll put it in their guide. But you can go to summonstone.com. When you view the guide, if this will load, hopefully, there you go. You got about the author, the spec overview, extra stuff about the class, if there's an IRC or whatever about it. And then, of course, you have rotations, talents, glyphs, gear, stats, boss guides, add-ons and macros, and simulations. And then they're all written up here. They're all, Azor's guides for Hunter are all written up here as well from Azor Therian. We were on the show a little recently. Abilities, rotation, golden DPS rules. There's more on each spec, of course. Spec recommendations on a per boss basis. Really, really good stuff on Summon Stone, and we're happy to be talking about them now. It's just really good. It's by Skullflower. You may or may not know who this guy is. He's done some tanking stuff before, I don't know, and some DPS stuff before. But all the guides are right here. They're coming more. They're getting there. Eventually they'll have all the classes set up and figured out. But go check out summonstone.com. Bookmark that if you have any curiosities about how the classes will change. And of course these will be updated as the Tier 18 comes out, I can only imagine. Additionally, if you want some more bear information, you go to the Inconspicuous Bear. They have the Guardian 6.1 Survival Guide posted. Of course, tons of other articles and the Tank Cast. And you got Ariel stuff up here and Kaylin stuff up here and Team Waffle. And oh, there's me. And the Math Corner and the Bear Tanking Guides if you want more in-depth bear necessities on the Inconspicuous Bear. That's the inkbear.com. Talked about them before on the show, maybe. And then, if you've missed any episodes of Final Boss TV, you can always go check out them on our YouTube page. Of course, our links are all down below. All of our past episodes are right there. Interview with Paragon, interview with Method, all of our episodes from 2015 and 2014. And if you want to go back in time, even 2013. We've been on like 3 years almost now. Well, between 3 years. Goodness me. Brutal sings to Coltrane in this episode, by the way. You should go check that out. It's pretty awesome. All on our YouTube. You can go check that out. Links are, of course, down below. And our new website, finalboss.tv, is being updated. The Firelord's Favored page, which has now been removed, is being remade into a one-stop place for, I play X, Y, and Z class. Where should I go to find this guide? And we'll have sections and pieces of information that you might not have heard about before. Different communities for every class and spec soon, all in one place. So obviously, as Summon Stone makes really good guides for different classes, we'll be linking, of course, across to them. But there are other information you need to know, different blogs that are out there that are really good resources, different websites that have forums and things you can join. That's coming on the new website. Again, that's just at finalboss.tv, right there, and right down below the stream. Check out our new website. And of course, we're on a podcast format too, where you can listen to the show as a MP3 on iTunes, Stitcher, or on the website itself through the RSS feed. Yeah. So do that. But now, we come to it. Guardian Druid talent talk. Yes, very good. So.
Okay.
Yes.
not the words I would use, but okay.
Well, hey, you said earlier they're not too bad. You have some options here. So, level 100 talents. Right into it. Guardian of Elune. It's your savage defense. Now lasts for 3 seconds. And increases the chance to dodge by 100%. Additionally, the recharge time and rage cost of Savage Defense are now reduced by your base dodge chance percentage. Pulverize, which actually gives you another button to hit. Woo! It's a devastating blow that consumes 3 stacks of Lacera on your target, dealing a whole bunch of damage. And then you get a little shield wall on yourself by 15% damage reduction for 12 seconds. And the best talent, of course, is Bristling Fur!
Best talent.
You get a 30-second cooldown, 40% shield wall for 3 seconds. So, so we'll go on a limb here and say that Pulverize is probably pretty good. It was obviously OP as crap in the beta, Ari. So where's the hierarchy of these talents, sir?
I mean, Pulverize is kind of like your generic talent. Like the talent that you start off with in most situations, unless you know you're going to need something else.
Sure.
Just because, 15% basically permanent damage reduction. You can't really say no to that. Guardian of Elune is really useful in large AoE situations where you can chain it together with other things to create a window of like no damage.
Sure.
Challenge modes are the obvious example here,
Right. Exactly. There you go.
and or places where the melee swing timer is not is like slower than 1.5 seconds. So Chromog, because the swing timer is 2 seconds,
Sure.
is where that talent's really strong. And then Bristling Fur whenever you need another cooldown for some reason. We talked about Grohl and Orgorger being the two examples this tier.
Well, it makes some
So-
sense. They all seem like they have their uses, though, right? Like they're not like I've done this show a little bit. I don't know if you're familiar. 77 episodes. I might know a thing or two about classes. There are a lot of classes that come in and like level 100 talents are this and nothing else.
Well, it was like that before 6.1.
Ah,
Like
that's
there
true.
were exactly 0 situations before 6.1. There were, I mean, because 6.1 came out third week of BlackRock Foundry, I guess,
Yeah,
or
that's
something
good.
like that.
Yeah, that's good.
Like in Highwall, there was no place where you took Bristling Fur. You could get away with using Guardian of the Loon for Phase 3 Tectus, but you had to survive to Phase 3 Tectus first,
Right.
because you were actually worse at the first two phases prior to the rage cost reduction, and Pulverize was basically the only talent you took prior to 6.1 for
Right.
90% of cases. But post 6.1, it's actually changed pretty significantly because Guardian of the Loon is no longer worse as your gear improves.
Sure.
Because it doesn't increase the rage cost to use Savage Defense,
Mhm.
which is really good. And Bristling Fur, like, I mean, I just don't like it. I'll be honest with you.
It's
I
a
just-
boring talent on paper, but obviously it's a pretty good damage window mitigation where you could, it's your only
Yeah.
option in this talent for like really taking a brunt of magic damage, I guess, if that's the issue that you're having.
Yeah, or going back to like Orgorjo and Grohl again,
Sure.
the instances where you need to take several or many large hits in
Large
succession
hits. Yeah.
in a short window, then it's really good. Yeah.
To go back over real quick to Guardian of the Loon, because I don't understand how this works. So the recharge time mechanic, how improved is that with your base dodge chance percentage, which I would assume is just like based on the character, not your gear, right?
No, it's
Or
based on all of total dodge after DR.
after
Not including buffs. So it's dodge from agility, plus your base character's dodge after DR, and then you take how much that is. So it's 1 minus base dodge times recharge time.
so how much
is
recharge
your
time?
recharge time and cost.
Because the Savage Defense recharge time is 12 seconds.
Yep.
So how fast does Guardian of the Loon in your gear become? And then I'll ask Kalen, because obviously gear different.
9.5, 9.7 ish, something like that.
Yeah. And Kalen, what is your recharge time like? Really, really quick? Like, is it
Am I a
different?
terrible person if I've never paid attention?
Well, you could look in game right now, I suppose.
I could, yeah, if you want to wait. But
I'm just curious if it's a huge noticeable difference, because even a 12-second recharge is kind of long, but if you can get it to like 8 seconds or so, that's a ridiculous amount of. Because an 8-second cooldown and it lasts for 3, it's a 5-second cooldown of 100% dodge, and you can just chain spam it more or less.
Yeah, so the reason it's really strong for longer swing timers
Sure.
is, say you have a 2-second swing timer, and let's use a 9-second recharge just as an example. So you have a 2-second swing timer, you use it half a second before the first swing. That is going to cover a full 4 seconds of damage window.
Right.
So you can get through 2 of those, and then the first one will be up again. You'll take 1 hit in between all of those damage windows,
Mhm.
and then the first one will be up again. But then you have a fight like Chromog, where he stops like every between it's like 5 and 8 swings. He stops to do
cast.
something,
Yeah.
which takes like 5 seconds. So you have a free 5 seconds of recharge. So it creates a situation that Kaylin described earlier, where you end up taking no damage for a huge amount of time because you abuse the reduced recharge time on
Yeah.
a boss where he stops to do things a lot.
So, do you have your number now, Kaylin? I'm just really
Oh.
curious.
okay, well, give me like half second.
Yeah, I'm just really curious because that does sound a lot better than it used to be, right? With Savage Defense, with Guardian of the Loon, that's pretty good. Obviously, it's only going to dodge physical damage and physical attacks. Now, and
Well,
certain things too.
let's rephrase. Yeah,
ahead.
physical, yes, but anything that's avoidable. So like
Yeah,
going
that's a
back
good way to
to
put it. Yeah.
going back to the Imperator or the Korag example, the really dangerous part of those encounters was the stuff that did magic damage, but it was all on the combat table.
Sure.
So you could dodge all of those, except the problem was you didn't, because the rage cost was so high, you didn't have the rage to actually sustain it long enough for the dads to die. So
Mm-hmm. But
looking
is
at Kaylin,
that
she has that number.
right?
I'm looking.
Yeah,
It's
because that's
saying 10, but that's not rounding.
right.
properly.
Yeah, so it'll be
So
9
it's-
point something.
Nine
Yeah,
point
it's 9
something.
point something. So
But that still means it's a 6 second. It's a 6 second cooldown then.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a 6 second of you're not dodging. And
Yeah, and it's important to note that the rage cost also reduced. So the rage cost of my Savage Defense GOE is like 48, which is
and not 60
huge
then,
reduction. Yeah,
because it's 60 baseline. So that's a good
Yes.
point too. Oh wow. I mean, you can't really like get a lot of dodge. I would assume though, if you had like a dodge proc, or eventually as your agility increases, so your dodge goes up. It is a really good scaling ability there. It's a lot of play with it compared to how it used to be. Yeah. Not
yeah,
bad.
and like the recharge rate is dynamic, right? So you get an agility proc from something like say
Sure.
your ring, then it'll reduce
That's true.
the
The ring.
recharge rate and the cost appropriately with the proc while it's still active.
Yeah, because 15% agility is probably a big chunk.
It's like 600, 700, something like that.
Yeah, which is how much dodge is that though? How much does a dodge equate to?
Not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot, but still, you're looking at percentages there. So
a
that's the
couple
whole
percentage points, I think.
right.
I-
Interesting.
I don't remember what the DR graph looks like.
Interesting. Very cool. So yeah, I guess what kind of fights were you swapping your talents around a lot, Kaylin, during progression? Obviously, we talked about Guardian of Elune and Chromog being a big thing, but
yeah.
do you find
The
you're doing
only
it a lot?
for level 100, not so much. I'm still running mostly Pulverize. I begrudgingly take Bristling Fur for Orgorger
Mm-hmm.
because it does make it easier for healers and cooldowns and all that stuff. I don't like it, but I do it. I don't like the talent. I'm like, all right,
Under protest.
I don't like it. It's a boring talent. It's 3 seconds. I just
Yeah.
want to get rid of it and get something new, something a little more interesting. At least like GOE's interesting now,
Right.
and Pulverize adds something. I mean, it's not necessarily interesting on its own, but it does add something to the actual playing of the game.
Sure.
But Bristling Fur, it's just like I don't know.
Does Bristling Fur even have like a unique like graphic yet? I know it didn't have it in beta. You just like
I think you turn red,
is that
but that's like every other thing you do as a bear.
Yay.
You turn red, or you get something that spins around you while you're red, or like I don't know why they couldn't why not make us like porcupiney, right? Like
yeah, well that's
spiky?
what the image looks like. But again,
Like a little
that,
hedgehog.
that comes into the realm of that, bears are never gonna get new VU, so it doesn't really matter.
Well, yeah.
Or druids in general. I mean, you've had boomkins I'm sure out there are just waiting with bated breath to not look like their model is 13 years old, because it is. It's from
Yeah.
beta World of Warcraft 13 years ago.
Yep.
Oh boy, please.
I
Eventually,
mean, Blizzard has said they're going to redo them again,
I
so
would. Mhm.
believe it when you see it, sort of thing, right? I mean, we're getting off topic, but they did need to redo the race models first. I'm not going to lie. That was
they
a good
did.
decision.
They did, but they have. My thing is that the Moonkin model is the Ogre model, but the Ogre model is updated, but not the Moonkin model. So, and there are new wolves, like shamans. I got a new wolf form because they updated the wolf model, but you don't get a new bear, cat.
By the way,
Cheetah.
wolf form or the new dog form for shamans is really cute. I'm just going to say that. I know I'm in the minority, but I think it's really cute.
I know it's all right. That's why you don't
What's wrong
glyph
with
this.
it?
You don't glyph the spectral one because you can't see it as well. You're like this invisible thing. No, don't glyph spectral wolf. No, don't do it. Shamans. Okay. So in that regard, are there any like other pairings of talents that like change how you're gonna take level 100s or not really? Like if we're gonna go backwards up the scale here. We'll start with level 90s with Heart of the Wild, Dream of Cenarius, and Nature's Vigil. And in the same way, it was the healing tier as well as your level 30 healing tier. Is there like a yes choice in both of these that is like just set it and forget it, or is there some wiggle room in these that you've noticed? Go with Ari first, I guess. Math, math me.
Envy's bad. Don't take it.
Fair
DLC. So the problem with level 90 tier is they stuck a main role survival talent
enough. Yep.
next to an off-role utility talent.
Yep.
And the huge majority of the time, you're going to take the main role survival talent because it's the main role survival talent. And the off-role utility talent, in the new tanking meta where you're like almost always doing something,
Yeah.
you can't find a way to use it a lot of the time.
Bearcat is
That
like,
is
really dead. Yeah.
That being said, people do use it for DPS meters.
Well, of course of course. That's all you'd use it for, right? Because you go
Well,
Bearcat.
yes, and you just look like if you remember looking at the single target damage, say on Butcher, for example.
Sure.
Pretty much every Guardian in the top 25 or whatever used Heart of the Wild at sort of the fight with Zerk to front load a lot of cat damage.
Before we start tanking.
And then they burn a lot of externals in the other tank and stuff. And then you go after like 15 seconds after Zerk is over, you just go back to Bear. Because outside of Zerk, you can't use Heart of the Wild Cat, and you need a caster weapon in order to use Heart of the Wild Caster. So that's really your option. If you can't, like, the healing is actually really strong from Rejuve spam, but there's never really a place where you want to be not tanking and healing other people.
Right.
Because in almost all, actually, I'm pretty sure in all of those situations, you need to be tanking and keeping yourself alive.
In the new way that
other
tanking
people.
works. Yeah.
So that's the huge downside of Heart of the Wild.
And then what about level 30s then? I mean, Kaylin, are you always just running with Scenarius and like Cenarian Ward then for raiding in Mythic?
Yeah,
how it
pretty
works?
much. I have swapped off of DOC twice. And I only I did it once for Chromog, just for pillar DPS, just for fun.
Okay.
Decided I didn't like it. We didn't really need it. It only helps you for one pillar phase, so it's like, why bother? I take it for Flamebender because I spend the entire first minute of the fight doing nothing.
Just
so I was like,
there.
yeah, because
that's true. Okay.
There's no taunt swap. So I was like, well, I might as well Heart of the Wild and do something because
okay, yeah, that makes sense.
otherwise I'm not really doing anything. But other than that,
Then you're forgoing the 10% crit on Mangle for dogs. So
no, yeah,
Zerk Mangle crits. So much damage.
Oh boy. Yeah.
the 6 seconds those dogs are alive. Oh man.
I know.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty much always Soul of the Forest, and for level 30 I'm always Cenarian Ward. There's
Cenarian
no
Ward.
reason to not take Cenarian Ward. It's just too much healing.
I mean, I know like balanced druids and I think feral kitty cats usually take Ysera's gift just because like it just happens, right? You just help heal the raid a little bit there. I think even like resto druids might even do that as well. I'll find out, when we talk about resto druid stuff, but that's a big point because I know back before in Mist when we talk about Cenarian Ward, all the other druid specs were like, don't take it, but now bears are like, this is the bee's knees. Cenarian Ward just too. I mean, it's a 6 second.
It's all because of Resolve.
Sure, exactly.
Resolve is the only reason.
And that's the weird thing too, is like because Ysera's gift's not going to scale with Resolve because it's percentage based HP. Renewal won't scale with Resolve, again, percentage based HP. So Cenarian Ward, while you're tanking a boss, and it only has a 24-second cooldown because the dot lasts
30.
6 seconds.
Lasts
6 seconds. So like you have a pretty strong uptime. You can obviously go into a taunt swap with it up, and then you can even end a taunt swap depending on how fast a dot sticks. You can even end with it as well. So that's pretty powerful.
It's a really strong talent, and
yeah.
I almost wish they would just make it not affected by Resolve. But then the entire row of talents would be bad. So I don't really know what to do there. The easy solution, I think, is just to buff Ysera's gift to 3% instead of 2 for Guardians, which makes it still a little bit worse than Cenarian Ward, but usable worse.
Right.
Renewal is just never going to get used, ever. There's nothing they can do
it's
to make
just
it
too long of a
usable.
cooldown. We already have Frenzied Regen, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't...
Yeah. As long as Frenzy Regen exists and is affected by Resolve, it's like, why are you even taking
renewal.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, the nice thing about Cenarian Ward is it's nice and it's not nice. It depends. It's personal opinion. It's an extra GCD, which is a lot of people find annoying. They don't want to spend that GCD on that. They want to spend it on
That's
something else,
a good point too.
like another Lacerate or something.
Yeah.
But with Cenarian Ward, you have choice. Like what I mean by that is, back when we were doing Mythic Brackenspore, for the breaths that happen with the healing reduction, the 90% healing reduction,
Right.
if you gamed it, like if you had all your cooldowns ready and you knew exactly what you were doing, you could have a Cenarian Ward ready to pop with the last tick of that breath. That would just instantly, like, full resolve, start healing you right
Full
up.
heal
So
you because when the dot was like that. Wow. Okay, that's
yeah,
pretty good.
so like when you know when you know what damage is coming in, it's really good. So
Because it's a 6-second dot, so I would assume it ticks 3 times. Correct.
Yep.
yeah,
Every 2. Yep.
So yeah, even if you do. That's pretty good. And you can even, because it doesn't cost anything, you can always Frenzy Regen when you're doing it as well. So you get just like the Frenzy Regen heal and the Cenarian Ward ticking. That's
yeah,
a
as long
big
as it's not
burst of
gonna,
healing.
well, as long as you don't go to overheal, otherwise
Sure, of course.
waste of rage. Or
Well, you're talking about how you
whatever.
had 1.3 million HP. I mean, come on now, that's a lot of HP to heal up.
Well, yeah, that is true.
That is a lot of HP.
Especially when your warriors, pop rally just for fun.
Ooh, that 1.6ish million.
Yeah, 1.6.
Nice. Very
It's
good.
a good use of rally on trash.
So the only other tier of talents here that really impact sort of your tanking is level 60. So you got Soul of the Forest, Incarnation, Soul of Ursoc, Son of Ursoc rather, and then of course the best one of Force of Nature. Where's the power spike lie in level 60 talents, Ari? Like, is there like a
So
set it and forget it, or
they actually, so Force of Nature has been a problem ever since it came into existence.
that's
For
so cute though.
for the longest time, they just didn't do any damage, and then they couldn't take a hit. Like they'd taunt something and instantly die.
Yeah.
That was fixed in Siege, but then they couldn't hold threat on anything. Finally, in 6.1, they're at a point where they can actually do something. So they scale dynamic with your stats, including
Yep.
Savage Defense. So you Savage Defense, they gain extra dodge.
Ooh.
They can take a hit. They have they're armor capped all the time.
Interesting.
So they can survive really well, and they can actually hold threat off of DPS and healers. Unfortunately, they obviously can't taunt bosses because that would just be completely broken.
Of course.
Like that would be insane.
I'm assuming they
but-
can taunt ads like the Ox statue can from monks, though, right? Like they
Yeah.
can taunt wolves on Darmak
They
or
can.
something like that.
Yeah, they could, but they can't
Why?
hold aggro off of you. Like they're
Sure,
not going
sure,
to hold aggro off of another tank.
Sure.
So sure, they could save someone that's about to be eaten by like a pack beast or something, but the flip side is why aren't you just taunting that thing?
Sure.
And B, you have to give up Soul of the Forest, which in a raid situation isn't really viable. Like it's
Right.
you sacrifice too much in order to take Force of Nature. They're really good. They're extremely good in Proving Grounds, but I mean, Proving Grounds are just one aspect of the game. They're serviceable in challenge modes.
That's what I was saying. They may be pretty good in challenge modes, maybe. But yeah, okay.
But the problem with challenge modes is you don't stop DPSing. Like
Yep.
as a tank, you're going to continue to DPS in the challenge mode even
The
after you.
entire time, yeah.
Yeah. So you're just going to pull the thing back anyway.
And-
At which point you might as well just take Soul of the Forest. So
And just looking at this tier, digging into it, I mean, you're talking about the GCD world we live in right now, right? And they're obviously to Force of Nature. If you're going to be using, I would assume you wouldn't always use all 3 of them at the same time, but they're all GCDs. Whereas Soul of the Forest is just Mangle gives you more rage and does more damage, and you're going to hit Mangle anyway.
a lot, especially with the fact that this is something we missed like at the start, is that haste now reduces the GCD for bears now too,
Ah, yes.
which means your mangles are going to be coming more and more often as you get more haste, which is another reason Soul of the Force is really good. The problem with Incarnation is it doesn't work well with Pulverize. So
okay.
no matter how if you're using Pulverize, and if you're taking Pulverize using it for the survival benefit, because it's the generic like standard talent, standard level 100 talent, you don't want to be also taking talents that make it hard to keep pulverize up, or
Oh, okay.
talents that whose benefit you sacrifice a lot of to maintain pulverize. So,
That's true because
say for example, you have pulverize in incarnation. Of the 30-second incarnation duration, you have to sacrifice 10 GCDs to pulverize, on top of 2 GCDs to thrash, well, one or two depending on how you time it. So that's 12 GCDs that are gone, just completely gone, that you would
Mhm.
normally be using mangles on, which means its benefit goes down the drain if you're using pulverize. Otherwise,
Interesting.
it's comparable to Soul of the Forest. It's still a really good burst cooldown if you need it. However, there aren't really that many situations where you do need the burst cooldown.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
but yeah,
because it's weird too. Would even spamming pulverize during incarnation even be that worth it? Because you're not
no.
consuming lacerate stacks over and over and over and over again. You're
If pulverize didn't consume lacerate during incarnation, it fixes the whole problem.
right. But that might be a little too good. A little bit, maybe.
I I mean, it would make the talent comparable to Soul of the Forest, which is kind of the
That's
point.
the point.
I'd probably take it
um,
more if that was the case.
yeah,
So I mean, is the main, I guess the mainstay here is that like Soul of Forest is just overall just too beneficial. Period. It just is it like a set and
it's
forget talent level 60 here. There's no really other wiggle room.
basically yeah. Unless you're doing proving grounds, in which case you really want Force of Nature for proving grounds.
Right.
But I mean, that's just kind of a solo EPing thing. So yeah.
Now, would like if you're taking a fight that has if you're going to run Guardian of Elune or Bristling Fur, would you kind of wiggle room better with Incarnation because you're not taking Pulverize anymore? Would that make it not as bad? Because I guess you would just spam Mangle in that regard.
Yeah, it depends on if you want the extra damage.
I guess
So
it doesn't
because
need a
if you
damage
like,
talent.
yeah, if you clip, because it also removes the cooldown on Maul,
Right.
so
Okay.
it means you can spam Maul and Mangle for the entire 30 seconds. So you can, and if you clip the duration, or if you clip the cooldown, so like say it's a 3.5 minute fight, you get two uses out of Incarnation in those 3.5 minutes if you use it on the pole and at the
Okay.
end, which means the DPS benefit's really strong. And there's some major gain during the Mangle Maul spam. Isn't like it's not bad, but that's only if you don't have to worry about pulverize. So on
Right.
something, it could be fun to use on something like Orgorger, where you're really only tanking the boss for like a minute and a half,
That's true.
and then you spend 2 minutes running around not doing anything.
Huh.
So it could be fun to use an Orgorger just for funsies.
It's like one thing that I completely forgot to mention earlier when you're talking about level 100 talents is something that I see a lot is people are judging their talent choices based on some people, not all people, how much DPS it nets them in the end.
Right.
So
Right.
just
Right.
like you
Right.
said, by taking GOE or Bristling
So,
Fur, it does make that incarnation a little bit more valuable to them. It all depends on what you want out of it. I've
Yep.
used incarnation once this expansion. It was on Korag, and I actually only used it for the fact that I could spam taunt to pick up all of the little magic ads. So I had to
Oh.
pick up
Okay.
I had to pick up one wave, and this was, after the Great Thrash nerf, I think,
Yep.
and they're all spread out, and it's like Fairy Fire's only so good. So I actually exclusively took it just to spam taunt, and then spam mangles to keep them. But
That's
pretty
kind of
much
an
it.
unfortunate interaction with that talent, I suppose.
Yeah,
well, I don't know. Oh, I mean, it's a benefit. It makes sense to remove the cooldown on taunt, but
Right.
eh.
Eh. But
If it played nice with pulverize, it'd be a lot. There'd be a lot more choice available
I
for
mean
sure.
that situation and argument sort of brings me to the issue with AoE threat in the first place and how threat is a coefficient now of like damage, and if they nerf the damage of your only ability that uses to pick up AoE threat and it does no damage anymore, then you don't do any threat. So being forced into a talent choice to spam an actual taunt focus to pick up ads is it sounds a little forced to me because
I mean,
you can't
if if,
normally.
if we're going back to the thrash nerf,
Right.
let's be clear. It never should have made it out of beta at the levels of
Well,
damage it was doing. Everyone knows that. That's
right.
not a thing that anyone argues.
Sure.
What they probably did overdo the nerf a little bit, not by a whole lot, but they probably did overshoot it. but it's not something that's going to prevent you from doing your job in most cases.
Sure.
So it's not like game breaking. It's just it's more annoying than anything else because you look at
Right.
something like Thogar where you're like, oh, well, I guess the warrior is going to do ridiculous more damage than I am just because deep wounds. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm just not sure. Blizzard has admitted the fact that they think the ability pruning on some classes was a little too heavy, and others not heavy enough. And I guess I just don't know why they removed swipe from bears.
well, I mean,
Because
so
Thrash's whole purpose is to put up a dot, right? You put up a bleed. You put up your
yeah,
deep wounds, and then what do? You just keep spamming it.
and,
That's all you can do right now.
at the start of the like when we talked about this at the start of the show, I said,
Sure.
when we first played with it, it didn't seem that bad, but it's only when you got into like actual raid encounters where you noticed,
Yep.
oh, having one button that does everything is trying to like be three different things: a single target dot, an AOE dot, and AOE snap threat doesn't really work.
Doesn't really work.
So that should really be split into two different things, and I hope they do that for 7. They bring back swipe as the snap threat and keep thrash as just the overtime thing.
Sure, right. It just feels that's almost every other class has in a way. I mean, you can attest Thunderclap and Deep Wounds to Thrash, but obviously there's a damage fall off between the two abilities.
Well,
because
doesn't
one
Thunderclap
has a
have
cooldown
too?
and one doesn't.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the issue. Is that like the snap damage on Thunderclap is larger because it has a cooldown, whereas Thrash
Yep.
just wah 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 wah. You just
yeah,
yeah
yeah. Bring back swipe with like a 2 or 4 GCD cooldown. Problem
yeah
solved.
yeah. That
think
makes
if we
sense.
bring
Makes
back-
sense to me. Yeah.
Bring back swipe and you won't hear anything about
Or
Thrash
put
ever
put
again,
thrash on
probably.
it. Put thrash on a 2 or 4 DCD cooldown.
Make it do more upfront
Shift all
damage.
its damage to damage over time, and then put swipe
Yeah.
as the only like just upfront damage.
Just
and
raw,
yeah,
raw.
be
Yeah,
fine.
exactly. Yeah, it's like they have options. There's definitely a thing
Basically,
there.
go back to Cataclysm. How it worked in Cataclysm, which was much more fun, except
Not-
for the 6-second duration on Thrash in Cataclysm was
not,
pretty bad.
Not the
But,
first
yeah.
time a tank has said they harken back to some Cataclysm things. So I guess a little 15 talents can be talked about because movement. We have some more time. So movement-oriented stuff, obviously, kind of important to tanking. So feline swiftness, obviously, you get a passive movement speed. Displacer Bleast is a forward blink, and then a short sprint afterwards. In cat form, of course, when you do this, and then wild charge is like a reverse. It's just it's intervene. So that's all it is. Is
Well,
there? Well, what?
Wild charge is just charge. It's not intervene.
Well, you have to go
be clear.
to an ally. That's what I mean. Whereas intervene.
No.
Oh.
Wild charge bear is you charge a target, an enemy target.
The ally
Wild
is
charge caster is
yeah,
fire
caster
when-
form.
Oh, okay. And Twitter does an update on DB then when you're in Guardian. Okay, just to make sure. Is there anything here that really comes down to fight basis, or is Feline Swiftness is pretty good all the time? I mean, Kaylin, did you notice any movement issues with Bear? Because you're kind of an immobile tank compared to like druids or monks. So
By
You mean
druids, you meant warriors?
warriors, sorry, warriors and monks. Yes, yeah.
I mean,
yes.
I don't feel immobile at all. I feel like more mobile than, well, I mean, like look at a paladin. I feel bad for them, but
They have a sprint.
Um,
That's about it.
yeah, I do swap my 15 talents somewhat regularly. I find for Foundry, I stick with Feline Swiftness actually more than anything else, simply because there's a lot of fights where I don't have to get anywhere really quickly
Sure.
via like picking up a mob or anything because it's a single target fight. I take Displacer Beast only because I have to for some things.
Mm.
The shapeshift to cat form is just awful. There goes your full rage bar, and it's not a good feeling.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that's a thing.
So, the interesting little fun fact about shapeshifting and rage, and I'll credit Hans this because he's the one that first actually took a look at it. Your rage doesn't actually go away when you shapeshift into cat form. You retain the same amount of rage as you had before. It's when you shift back into bear form that it gets set to 10.
What the heck?
So, yeah,
Oh, I bet that has to do with the whole like when you shift to bear form, you are at 10 rage. It's probably like overriding it
Yeah.
or something. Yeah.
yeah, it's happened that way since a long time ago. But
We can get the blame Celestial on emotes in chat real quick for that one. My God.
but I mean, the easy fix to that is if you have more than 10 rage when you're shifting into bear form, you keep the rage you had before.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
Or why does Displacer Beast make you go into cat? That's the real question.
It's the cat.
Is it
talent
flavorful?
tier? I mean,
Is that oh god.
I don't actually mind the actual shapeshift to cat. That doesn't bother me so much. Because when you're in cat form, you have that extra run speed anyway. So that plus
Sure.
the little dash you get after, if you need to go that extra, 10 yards or whatever, you're set. I don't. It doesn't bother me too much. It's exclusively the rage dump. That's just the worst.
yeah, and you could take that even further and go when you have to soothe or remove corruption or do whatever, anything that doesn't involve you being in bear form, losing all your rage to do it is really annoying.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't. Because like no, like warriors don't lose their. They don't have to do any stance swapping anymore. So they don't have a rage loss component, and you're the only other rage tank. So, but you have still one sort of. That's weird. Soapbox time, ladies and gents. Ariel, what do you got for soapbox for the bear community? What do you want to give them? Leave them with tips, tricks, special things, hints, words of advice. Go for it.
It's so Heimal was terrible. Nobody disputes that. And it, the post 6.1 world this is what we should really be looking at right now.
Yep.
And we're actually like not that bad. Like AoE damage, okay, sure, we could use a little bit more AoE damage, but for the most part, in terms of actual like being a tank, it's mostly fine. It's the little things like the losing all your rage when you shift into bear form, or the why am I level 30 talents totally not balanced, or why do I have to take DOC? Why can't I use my other 2 level 90 talents? It's those things that need to be fixed, and hopefully we can get something like that in 6.2. But maybe it's 7.0. Who really knows at this point?
Right.
And hopefully the stigma from the horrible Heimal experience
Yeah, I know.
goes away with time.
Hopefully. Yeah, that's probably one of the biggest thing right now too. Is a lot of raiders out there in the community like to look at like high end people as like their benchmark, right? And obviously they're gonna min max the hell out of things. But if you're not raiding 18 hours a day for the first 2 weeks of an expansion with 6 alts, that you have to make sure you get everything done in this time period, I don't think you need to worry about the fact that none of them are playing Guardians now, because if you're raiding at the level that the game is balancing for and being buffed and nerfed for, and you're getting the gear, Guardian probably just fine right now. I mean, chat room even earlier said like they had some black hand before. You know, I think it was heroic. I don't know if it was mythic or not, but obviously Kaylin just killed it as a Guardian druid, just fine. So
Yeah. I never felt like being a guardian impeded me in any way in any of the fights that we did. I mean, obviously we're not, you know, top 10 in the world or anything, but I don't know.
right.
I mean,
So
there's still guilds like very highly ranked guilds. Dex still playing Guardian. Memory serves.
yeah.
Yeah.
Tiggerosi, really good, still playing Guardian. So there's still people out there. It's just
Sure.
Heimal was so bad, and you have that really short window where you can make the decision to re-roll that a lot of people did, and I can't fault them for that because Heimal was just terrible.
That's right. Kaylin, your turn. Soapbox it. What do you got?
It's already pretty much covered everything, but just strength. My brothers, don't leave.
Don't leave.
We're good. I promise we're good. Just there's always going to be a flavor of the month tank. Right now that's monk. Before it was kind of monk, and it's been monk in the past, and it's probably going to be monk for a little bit while. But just tough it out. We're all right. Like we said, high-end guilds are always going to min-max to the best they can, and if that means not taking Guardian, then that means not taking taking a Guardian.
Mm-hmm.
So it is what it is, but I don't feel like people should let the lack of Guardian representation in the raiding world be indicative of much, especially when it's so early on in a tier, because that's when everyone's looking in the first 3 weeks of a tier. It's like, oh, there's only one Guardian that's killed this boss, and it's like, it's been 3 weeks, guys.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Chill.
Are you killing the boss in 3 weeks? No.
Yeah.
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 Exactly. I mean, these split tiers are kind of dragging. I mean, we started raiding Heimal before Christmas, and it's April now. We've been in this tier for 4 months. So going on 5 now ish. So it's been a bit of a, we'll see. I mean, we're not gonna get tier 18, I don't think, until August, September. hopefully late July, which is fine. That's a good 8-month period is fine, but I think people misunderstand the representation of classes. It's a good point. So, all right.
Yeah,
man.
and I'll just really quick echo something that Trekky's saying in chat. Like,
Sure.
gear is really really important to Guardians, and that's been like completely borne out in Blackhawk Foundry. Like getting all this Mastery Multi-Strike gear,
Yep.
we're like a lot better than we were with the terrible itemization in Foundry. So, I mean, and that's
very true.
Guardians have been like that since they existed. So, sure, it'd be nice if like we had a guaranteed mitigation ability from Savage Defense, but that's not something that's going to change until at least 7.0.
Sure.
So, kind of gotta use what we have for now.
Yep. That is true. Alrighty, it's button time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much, chat room, for tuning in. Of course, if you do have some questions for our bear tanks, you can wait around for the after show. We'll have to take a little break right now, and then we'll come back. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you click the button up in this corner, and you can go to the after show right now. We'll do some Q&A when we get back with our guests. Around the table again, of course, we had Ariel from the Bear Retirement Home. You can go read his guide soon on Summon Stone with Kaylin, and at Twitter on Ariel EJ. Thank you for being on the show, sir. You gotta keep fighting Roger Brown for the best guest spot. You gotta...
Best.
Yeah, right? Well,
I
hey.
mean, I didn't even know this was a competition. What is this? I have the best stories about you. So.
Yeah, Roger's got none of that. Roger's got none of that. That's a good point, sir. But thank you. It was always a pleasure.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
We also had Kaylin on the show as well from Anti-Social Club. And you can find her on Twitter at Kaylin. There's an A there because a bot took her real name. And the Angry Gingerbread, of course, is very good. It's great having you on the show for the first time. A lot of fun. Good stuff.
Yeah, thanks.
Hopefully you weren't too overwhelmed with everything.
No, bear stuff.
Bears. Just bear stuff.
Just bear things. Hashtag.
Just bear things.
Right.
Everyday bear things. This is just bear things coming out of my mouth instead of my fingers, so.
No, well, okay. That's fair enough. Fair enough. Next week's episode, everybody, is going to be another Druid show. Affinity will be here to guest co-host. I don't know who the guests are yet, except that it's Resto Druids next week. So that means that Holy Discipline Priests are the last healer episode that we'll talk about in a couple weeks' time now. I want to get all these salt from all the healers out of the way before we talk about those. So Resto Druids next week. More info on social media on those that come out when they do. And so we will thank you all for watching again. Everyone behind the scenes of Final Boss TV appreciates everyone's support. If you have questions, stick around for the after show. Trust in your seal of tempered fate. Until next time, guys, you know nothing. Chat room. All right, bye-bye. Bye-bye. Wave bye at the nice people. Tell them.
I did.
Kaylin just sitting there. I'm trying to.
This.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you.
Getting her to say bye is really frustrating. Trust me.
Okay.
Oh.